Next, we're going to talk about our fire kit. This is the kit that we actually take into the woods. There's a lot of pieces in here that we can replenish while we're at camp, but this is just that item that we carry in our pack. The first thing you're going to notice is it's very large. If I lay this New Orleans axe mask on top of it, and this one was fashioned by the late Earl Glenn Jackson, and I take a look at size, you can see this is a full-sized axe head worth of just fire starting material. That should give you a notion how critical these materials are and these tools are in the woods. So let's open it up and take a look. Now this is the inside of our kit with one extra item. These are our ferro rods. These might be in our pack kit, they may be in a belt pouch. Most modern bushcrafting knives, especially high-end knives, have a loop on the sheath just for your ferro rod. These are just some different sizes. This is a very common size. This is the exact same size as the Light My Fire Scout, the smaller of the Light My Fire fire steels. This one is the size of the Light My Fire Army, and this one is just a big old honking size that gives you a lot more surface area to carry a spark. So there's a lot of different options here, but these are all just ferro rods, and you can see where we've scraped material off and it ignites, and that would then let us transfer those flames into a tinder bundle or onto a char cloth or onto any of our fire starters and start our fire. This is a natural material that you can collect in the wild, but I will tell you from experience, don't count on being able to collect it in the wild just any time. And this is fat wood. This is a resin filled evergreen tree split down. This is pine. It's all split down just to make your fat wood that you can then make your feather sticks from, and it actually has a candling effect or a wicking effect when it burns the resin, so it actually burns much slower and allows you to make your fire start, use your small tinder. Now inside these pouches we have a couple other natural materials. Inside this pouch, I'm not going to dig it all out, is cedar bark. This cedar bark can be used to make a bird's nest or just as a light tinder itself. Inside this pouch is some more exotics for this part of the world. We've got chaga, which is impossible to find here. It grows up north. This is a birch fungus, and once it's dried it will actually take a ferro rod. It'll hold an ember. You can lay this in the edge of your fire and hold an ember and transfer it somewhere else, and it does burn a long time. It also can be used to make tea, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the year when we start shooting some more videos. We have a commercial fire starter in here, wet fire. That's our last resort. If all else fails, we have that we can use to start a fire in wet conditions, high wind, anytime that'll start a fire. And we also have birch bark in here. It's real paper thin. It does have some resins and oils in it that burns. So that is our natural tinders that we have in this. Let's move on to our tins. We've got the tried and trusted Altoids tin. This one hasn't been charred in yet, but this is one of our containers that we can make char cloth in if we need to, or char some punk wood. Inside we have jute twine, lamp wick, which is all natural material. We have some more lamp wick and some charred lamp wick in there, and then some charred punk wood, which is just that almost rotten, extremely dry wood that's on the outside of old decaying trees, and it's been charred to take a spark off flint and steel or off of a ferro rod. Now inside this other tin, this is actually its own fire kit in its own. This is a tobacco tin. Inside it we have a number of different items. We have another commercial fire starter, a nice steel to start our fire with flint and steel. We have a Light My Fire fire steel, and this is the army size like we talked about. Cigarette lighter that's bright orange, so we can use it to start our flame just instantly if we need flame. One thing I'd like to add is a lot of people, when they start in their woodsman skills and in their outdoor skills and their bushcrafting, especially if they're younger, they buy everything that's olive drab and camouflage, and then if they drop it, it's just gone. They lose it. It blends in nature. So we buy these bright colored ones. This one's a bright orange, and I prefer the bright orange so we can find it easier. Got matches, just plain old paper matches. Jute twine that we can make bird's nests from or use as a tinder extender. More char cloth, and some really nice pieces of flint that we can use for our flint and steel fire. So this is a kit that we actually carry into the woods, and that little bit of prep time can make the difference in a good experience in the woods and a bad experience. So once you take this prep time to load all this up and you have these tins in the woods at camp, and you can collect the natural tinders that you can then char. You can char your more punk wood, you can char more natural fibers, you can make your bird's nest, and you can refill these kits while you're at camp, and you don't have to worry about that the next time you go out. So these are self-sustaining. But that's just take a look at our belt kit or our pack kit, and that's about all we've got on fire prep.
Hey guys, this is Brandon with Prepared Man, and we're going to gather some natural tinders to make bird's nest with. These grasses like this dried out early spring. They've not started greening up or nothing yet. Excellent tinder once you break it down, strip it down. Get enough together. Process it down, and no problem whatsoever making a flint and steel fire with it. Guys, in the area that I live in here, we call this sawgrass. It's really easy to find. It pretty much grows everywhere around here. Any incline, any bank, you can guarantee you're going to find it. But simply just strip off these loose shoots or leaves, I guess you would say. I don't really know what term to call them, but strip them off. Start separating them down, tearing them down. The finer you get it, the better. And it makes a great bird's nest or tinder bundle to start your fires with.
Okay, so what we've pulled here is just some of that freestanding tall grass that's dry from last winter. We've also got this sawgrass, and I just cut this with a knife, and just some dry grass. Anything that's freestanding and dry like this, you can tell it's ready to go. It's like cornflakes. So I'm going to process this down. This is going to be the outside of my bird's nest. And then if I just place this inside without processing it much, it's still coarse. And I can process this down to actually catch my ember for my flint and steel, or for my char cloth or my ferro rod or whatever else. I can get it to the point that it'll actually catch, and that gives me some different speeds that I can work with. Then my bird's nest, I can actually hold on to it without catching onto the fire, and that doesn't give you that initial shock that as soon as you catch a flame and it flames up, you drop it to get it away from your face, and you're going to be much more successful. So all this little good stuff here, we'll keep this, and I'd actually transfer that over to my fire lay as just extra tinder. But this is my bird's nest ready to go. All natural materials we collected, somewhere about 30-40 seconds. It wasn't very hard to find.
Okay guys, let's see if we can light this. I think we're going to use a older method, flint and steel. Shouldn't have any problems with it. It's broke down pretty good and really dry. Got my fire kit here. Basically this pouch right here is dedicated specifically to fire. Inside of it is fat wood pieces. I actually have a big lighter, wet fire, tinder. Inside my Altoids tin, got a fire steel, a couple pieces of flint, some char cloth, and we got some cordage to make bird's nest out of if we can't find what we need in nature, or it's too wet to do it with. I think for this, we're just going to go ahead and use some of the char cloth that I already have pre-made, and flint and steel. Okay, let's give it a try. And we have an amber. And there we go.